In today's tutorial, I am going to show you something that I call the bokeh technique, which is a term that I stole from a photography technique. It's a very simple background technique. To begin, I'm actually going to stamp the greeting for my card because it's kind of large and I want to make sure that what I'm doing doesn't get in the way of this greeting. So the best way for me to do it is just to put it there first and then work around it. I love Richard Bach. I love this saying, what the caterpillar calls the end of the world, the master calls a butterfly. And here's my butterfly. This is Wonderful Wings. You can see that it's very well loved. It's my favorite stamp in the world. And I'm going to take a metallic blue Faber-Castell gelato and just rub it on my silicone craft mat. And then also apply the gelato directly to the stamp. This has a very creamy texture. It goes on very evenly. And I'm just going to get it all over the stamp. Then I'm going to take a water brush and I'm actually going to wet the gelato that I put on the stamp. This has a very soft texture. It's softer than a watercolor crayon, and so it's very easy to move around the stamp. And after I get that wet, I'm just going to do some geometry and figure out how this butterfly goes on the card and stamp this very undefined image. And the purpose of this first image is to give me a shadow under what is going to be my more detailed butterfly. So there's no need for it to be perfect. Then I'm going to take my water brush and I'm going to fill in, most importantly, the edges with the darkest color. And I'm actually going to go outside the lines just a little bit because I want it to truly be a blue shadow underneath the butterfly that'll be popped up on top of it. So you don't have to worry about filling in the inside of your image. Just go around the outside with your deepest color being at the edges. And I'm using Whisper White cardstock as my card base, so I don't want to put too much water down. So if I get a little bit of extra water on my mat, I can just add some more gelato and make that into just a creamier pigment to pick up and put onto my card. And it's also okay if the image goes a little bit onto your greeting because you're going to see that I don't obscure the greeting later on when I add the final element. Now my bokeh tool is a little zebra mechanical pencil, and it has this beautiful white eraser that I just love. It's totally flat, makes a great little circle, and you can pick up ink and gelato with this and start your technique. Now, of course, I forgot my ink, so that's the most important part. I like to mix my ink and gelato because it covers the eraser. The eraser is made out of rubber, so it's just like a stamp, and so you need a little bit of coverage. And so what I do is I pick up a little bit of, this is a Stampin' Up! Water-based ink. It's Tempting Turquoise. Pick that up first with the eraser, and then add a little bit of gelato for shimmer. And what I do is when I first stamp with this little eraser, I stamp with the most intense colors closest to the image. And this is the common technique that you'll see in photography. You'll get little bubbles of color, more intense near the image and fainter towards the edges. So I stamp near the image a few times, and then as the ink fades, I go farther and farther away. Now, the funniest part of this whole video is how I don't notice that the lead of the pencil is coming out every time I do this. Just pointing up towards the camera, but I finally figured it out. So I'm just going to go in and fill in the rest of the card, and it gives, what I love about this technique in both photography and in stamping is that it lends a sort of dreamy atmosphere to your card and to your image, which for me, when I first came up with this technique, was perfect for the image and this particular sentiment. I go all the way to the edges of the card usually with the faintest of my ink colors, And I really don't worry about if I'm getting a little bit of gelato onto my ink pad. These are both water-based mediums, and so they're compatible with each other. I'm not going to ruin my ink pad with a little bit of shiny gelato. So you can see how soft this becomes as it moves away from the butterfly. And to me, it's just dreamy. I hope I'm saying it right. I even looked up a video on how to say it, and it says you should say bokeh with a little separation in between. So that's what I'm doing. Apologies to anyone who actually knows how to say it. So once you're satisfied with how much you have going on in your background, then you can work on your focal image. And I pre-stamped with waterproof ink one of these butterflies, and I'm using the Pitt Big Brush pen. And I'm just going to, actually, I don't know why I'm even coloring in the lines. It doesn't matter because I'm going to cut this butterfly out, but I think we've all had it drilled into us that we have to color in the lines, so that's what I'm doing. And the only thing I'm interested in at this point, because I am going to put a top coat on this butterfly, is coverage. But even though this is an India ink, it blends very, very smoothly, much like an alcohol marker will blend. And so I get good coverage even though I'm not making any attempt to make this smooth at all. I just want a deep dark blue all over the wings. After I fill in the wings, I am going to do the body as well. I want it to be a very homogeneous color all across the butterfly. Then I'm going to take my gelato, and once again I am going to add a little bit of shimmer, and what this does is it ties it in with my bokeh background. And I'm going to use the water brush. Really, more than coloring in this first pass, what I'm doing is I'm getting the butterfly wet so that I can then directly apply gelato on top of that in kind of a thicker coat and move it around. So you just take the little crayon and just color right on that wetted surface, and then I just use my finger to smooth it out. And there's something about smoothing it out with your finger that just gives you better coverage. So that's my preferred method, but you of course can use, anything you want to get that shimmer. I know it's hard to see in this video. So, but again, the water's the most important part. I love these because you don't have to be neat at all. Even though I am a clean and simple stamper, I don't necessarily need everything to be super precise. Then I'm going to take a glitter marker. This is a Martha Stewart glitter marker, and these are kind of incredible. She is always inventing something amazing, and this is no exception. Has a felt tip, and color and glitter just come out very smoothly. And I've had these for about a year, and they still work like new, so I'm pretty happy with them. And what I'm going to do is just the little dots on the edges of the wings, I'm just going to make those shiny. And then just up at the top, I'm going to run a little line of glitter down the top. And now it's very shiny and shimmery and ready to cut out. So just cut it out, and I cut just a tiny bit inside the outline of the edge. Just that I don't get any white on the edge. But if you do get white on the edge, what I do almost every time I cut out an image is I just take a black felt tip pen or whatever your favorite black crafting marker is, and I go around the edge so it looks professional. And yes, I'm cutting off his antenna. I know that's terribly cruel, but there's nobody in the world, no fussy cutter in the world could possibly cut out those teeny antenna and do a good job. And I am no fussy cutter, ladies and gentlemen. Now when I get to where the wings separate, I actually cut in between the two wings. And you'll see why when I pop it up on the card. It really looks pretty if you can give it a little dimension. So, but you certainly don't have to do that. You can do this with just a completely solid butterfly. I like mine to look like he's about to flap around the room, with or without his antenna. And here's where I really didn't need to color in the lines, but oh well. Luckily, the inside of these wings have a very defined line that I can cut across to get almost to the middle. I love this butterfly. So now I know a lot of you are freaking out because I didn't cut out this one little white part, but I didn't forget. I just had to go back from a different angle. So now you can all breathe easy. He is perfectly trimmed and looks normal now. So to floof up his wings, I'll show you what I do. I kind of bend them so that they curve back down towards the paper, which I like. You can do it either way. And you can use a bone folder, or if that's too far away, just use your marker to curve the paper back up and then back down towards your card base. And then now you can see what I mean by the shadow. I can actually move the little butterfly up and a little bit away from the bottom shadow. And then that way I don't obscure the words, but it still does look very dimensional on my card. And then I can just stick it down with an actual dimensional. And there you have a nice bouquet background.